Hey, what is happening, guys? It's Rules for Rebels here, and I have an interesting retail arbitrage opportunity for you guys. And I think this may be a pretty easy way to make some money, and I don't think there's a lot of competition for this. So, I'm actually in the process of moving right now, and I'm actually closing on a house in the next 3 or 4 days here, sometime mid next week. And so I'm going through my current place, cleaning out the basement, deciding what to throw away, what to try to sell on, offer up, what to give away, etc. And I found this briefcase. This is an old vintage Samsonite briefcase. Now, I'm sure you guys probably know this, but almost anything vintage sells. Vintage posters, vintage record players, vintage baseball pennant, all types of vintage stuff sells really well. And I guess you could call this, I think vintage is like anything over 20 years old, so you could call this vintage. Again, it's a Samsonite briefcase. It's a hard shell plastic one. This is actually my dad's old briefcase. You know, they got the little dials where you set the code, put your papers and stuff in here. It's kind of funny looking back. You know, it really wasn't that long ago that, like, office people who went into the office carried one of these. And now, you know, if you live in a major city or you see people commuting on a train, everyone's got like a messenger bag or a backpack. So it's kind of a weird transition. When you think about it, a briefcase was really probably like one of the most inefficient ways to carry stuff around. Like, who wants to walk around? Like, you know what I mean? Anyhow, to my surprise, I was just curious. You know, I'm not going to sell this. I think I'm going to keep it and just use it to store files and stuff. I guess it's got some sentimental value since it was my dad's. I remember as a kid, you know, my dad going off to work carrying a briefcase. But there's actually a pretty healthy market for these vintage briefcases on eBay and Amazon. There's certain brands that will actually sell for $1,500, $2,000, $3,000. And some brands are obvious, like Louis Vuitton and some of those types of things. But there's a lot of other ones that, like, I've never heard the names, but sell for a pretty good buck. If you have leather ones, they sell really good. I think these old Samsonite ones sell pretty well. I just took a brief look around on Terapeak, and they actually, like, you can see kind of the average sales price, and for a lot of items it's like $0 to $8. Like, I would say most the strongest sales point is going to be like $16 to $20 something, but I mean, these sell pretty good up into the $50, $60, $70, $80 range. Really good sales stats. I think sales stats for vintage briefcases was 35,000, which is pretty healthy sales stats. The sell-through rating was a little on the low side. Sell-through rating, I believe, was 28%, which is kind of low, but it's sort of understandable just because with briefcases, it's something that really comes down to individual taste. So while I may like this briefcase, somebody else may want a leather one, somebody else may want a brown one instead of a maroon one. You know, so I think this comes down to a lot to personal taste, which is, I think, what attributes to that low sell-through rating. But the reason I think these are an interesting retail arbitrage opportunity, most people who are going to find this in their basement are going to throw it in the garbage, right? Or they're going to donate it to Goodwill. So I think this is an item, if you went to Goodwill, to a Goodwill store or a thrift shop, I've actually seen a lot of briefcases, and even like kind of the more like bag type leather briefcases. I see those at Goodwill all the time for $1, $2, $3, $4. This is also an item that you could probably pick up at a lot of garage sales. If you go to a flea market, you can probably find briefcases like this. And I would say you should be able to pick these up for just a couple dollars. And if you can turn around and make even 15 bucks off it, it's a pretty good profit. If you can make $50, $100, and I think a lot of people probably don't even necessarily know that they have something of value. So some of these more specialty or more higher end or more collectible brands, people, you know, nobody uses briefcases anymore. So for most people, there's not a lot of practical use in this. Like I said, they're going to throw it in the garbage. They're going to send it to a thrift store. They're going to give it to Goodwill. So I think there might be some good money in these because they sell for a decent price and you can pick them up really cheaply. I think eBay would probably be a better marketplace for these than Amazon, although you might be able to sell them on Amazon as well. And I think a Shopify store, if you started buying up a lot of these and had a nice collection of in an assortment of different types of briefcases, I think there could be some good money in these. So this is just part one of the video. In just a second, I'm going to be taking you guys over to Terapeak, and let's pull some stats on briefcases on Terapeak and kind of see what they're selling for, what keywords people are searching for, examples of what's selling, etc. So in just a second, I'm going to jump over to Terapeak with you guys. For those of you guys who maybe are new to my videos or whatever, you may not be familiar with Terapeak. Terapeak is an eBay analytic program. It lets you pull all types of sales stats. Terapeak is, I believe, I know it's the only eBay, and I believe the only analytic program out there that's actually a partner and has access to eBay's inside data. Jungle Scout, Unicorn Smasher, These guys, I don't believe they're partnered with Amazon. I don't believe they have access to Amazon's inside sales data. Terapeak is actually connected with eBay sales data, so everything's real time, very accurate, and a ton of great stats. It's probably the most in-depth analytic program out there, and I will link in the description box below to where you can get a free trial or try them out for free for 7 days. So we're talking about briefcases today, guys, and let's hop on over to Terapeak. Hey, what's up, guys? Rules for Rebels. We're picking up where we left off here. So we are in Terapeak, and I'm just going to pull some reports on vintage briefcases and kind of see like what keywords are people searching for, what's selling. Let's take a look at the sales stats, etc. So vintage briefcase. I forget if briefcase is one word or two words. Briefcase. Yeah, I guess it's one word. So we have leather. So leather is a popular material type. Bag, another word for a briefcase. I think a lot of people are probably going to be calling messenger bags briefcases. Brown, attaché. So if I were creating an eBay listing, I would try to incorporate these words into my title and into my description. If I had a Shopify store, I'd try to write blog posts about the best attaché briefcases. Potentially could hold a laptop, so briefcase / laptop bag. In my opinion, if something has a shoulder strap, it's no longer a briefcase, but whatever. Satchel, bags, hard. Hard refers to hard shell, like the Samsonite briefcase that I have right here that I just showed you guys is a hard shell briefcase. Black, business, genuine, Hartman, which I imagine is a popular brand. Samsonite, again, which is the brand that I have. Saddle, men's. And here's some examples of briefcases. Now, this isn't what I typically think of when I think of a briefcase. To me, this is more of a messenger bag. But they're kind of getting lumped into the briefcase category. So let's go over to Hot Research and see when we type in briefcase what's popping up here. Briefcase. So Coach briefcase. If you're somehow lucky enough to stumble upon like a Coach or Louis Vuitton briefcase, or even like a nice vintage leather briefcase at a flea market, a Goodwill, etc., jump on it because these things can go for thousands of dollars. But some of the hottest or most searched terms in regards to briefcases is Coach briefcase, surprisingly number 2, Samsonite briefcase, attaché case, vintage leather briefcase, men's leather briefcase, messenger bag, attaché, Tumi, which I imagine is a brand, wallet, backpack, Gucci briefcase, black briefcase, leather, aluminum, hard, women's, vintage. So, if you're looking to source these things at a Goodwill, this will give you some indications into what's popular: Coach, Samsonite, leather, vintage, etc. Let's hop over to the actual product research tab here. And let's type in vintage briefcase. Okay, so we have a pretty respectable average price, $56.61. Average shipping price is $14.78, which is a little high, but obviously briefcases, well, not super heavy, are bulky, so they're going to cost more to ship. The average start price is $14.35. The total number of listings is 2,173, and if we look down here, of those 527 were successful, and that's what gives us a sell-through rating of 24.26%. Now, like I said, this is sort of a low sell-through rating, but I don't mind that because the total sales stats are actually very high. And also because briefcases are something that's kind of a unique style to each person. Not every briefcase is going to appeal to every person. So I would kind of expect a low sell-through rating, but really, really good sales stats here. The best day of the week to end your listings on eBay would be a Sunday. Oddly enough, I don't get this, but most people are buying briefcases between 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning. Maybe a business guy who's up early traveling or something. We kind of covered this. Total sales time of day when they sell the best is oddly enough from like midnight to like 7 a.m., which is kind of crazy. The best day of the week that they sell is Sunday, but it's pretty evenly dispersed across all days. Most people are doing either 7-day listings or 30-day listings, and most of these are being listed in clothing, which is kind of interesting. The average pricing, and this is what I like to see with a lot of like the a lot of the little knickknack type stuff we import from China, phone chargers, phone cases, blah, blah, blah. We're going to see like most sales in like the $1 to $3 range. The strongest sales are going to be $0 to $15. I imagine people are charging shipping on top of that. So $15 for a briefcase that you could probably pick up at Goodwill for $2 or $3, in my opinion, is a pretty good deal. But what I really like to see here is we have pretty strong sales stats at $16 to $31. and also from $32 to $48. And really, sales stats are actually pretty strong, going all the way up to $1,500. So you're going to be able to get good money for these briefcases. The top keywords that you would want to include in your listings, and this is going to hold true whether you're selling on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, etc. Leather, bag, messenger, laptop, shoulder, men. I'm not sure what S stands for. Brown is the color. Genuine and satchel. And most people have briefcases in stores. Briefcases probably are something that may sit around for a while before it sells, waiting for the right buyer. But stores and fixed price listings are pretty good. Here is a pretty expensive brand. I'm not familiar with it. Gurkha Marley Hodgson, number 81 attaché. I'm guessing this is some kind of like high-end vintage briefcase, but $1,685, $1,660. So if you happen to stumble upon one of those, it looks like it's pretty good money. Let's go over here and we'll look at some recent sales. So again, we have a lot of these Churka bags selling. Here's a Louis Vuitton briefcase that sold for $1,500. Another rare Louis Vuitton briefcase sold for $1,400. Here's a different style of the Gurkha briefcase, sold for $768. Let's look at some of like the cheaper briefcases that are selling. A lot of them myself. Well, I'm surprised how many of these are ending at like 9. Okay, so this stuff is like briefcases that are coming from China. Do we type in vintage? Yeah, I typed in vintage. Anyhow, I mean, like I said, a lot of these things can be picked up so cheaply. Even if you sell it for 10 bucks, it's still a pretty good profit there. I don't feel like scrolling all the way up to get to like the $20 range, but I was curious to see what sells in that range. Let's head over here. This is I really like looking at these stats here. Basically, this is going to show us the total number of listings as well as the average price. So 7 days isn't going to tell us much. We're going to go over to 90 days and see what the trends are like over the last 3 months. And this report typically takes a minute or two, so I'm going to pause this video really quickly while this pulls up stats. Okay, so guys, this report has completed being pulled, and so what we're seeing is over the last 90 days, the total number of listings, has it grown or has it stayed the same? We have a lot of up and down, but in general, you know, it's not as if we see the number of listings dramatically increasing on a chart there, and we're also not seeing it drop off. So that's kind of what I typically want to see, is it staying pretty level. In terms of the average price, we want to see it either level or we want to see it trending upwards. What we don't want to see is like a product at $150 and then overnight it drops down and is being sold for like $10. An example of that happening is the watermelon slicers. Watermelon slicers, when they first came out, were selling for $29, $24, $19.95. And now so many people have rushed in and driven the price down that it's literally to the point where watermelon slicers are being sold for 10 cents a piece on Amazon. So pretty good stats here. Let's hop over to the top 20 sellers. I'm not going to dig too deep into these guys. If you guys want to, what I recommend doing is just do a Google search, type in the word eBay and then the seller's store name, and you'll be able to find their store and you can see the type of stuff they're selling. So the number one seller of briefcases is eBags Bazaar. Now this guy I don't think is going to be competition to you. I'm guessing this guy probably like imports briefcases from China. So he's not selling vintage stuff, he's selling newer stuff. Some of these other guys may be more the people who are running, you know, Japanese World Trading Assistant. I doubt that's going to be like thrift store type briefcases. It's probably going to be new briefcases. But if we look over here, you know, a lot of these guys have pretty good sell-through ratings, 90%, 100%, etc. But again, if you want to look at these guys' individual stores and see the types of briefcases they're selling, you know, just go to Google, type in Jimmy Try 0, and then type in the word eBay, and you'll be able to find his My World or his eBay store, and you can check them out from there. And then lastly, let's look and see how briefcases sell internationally. Normally Terapeak's pretty quick, but I think because I'm running this screencast software, it slows it down a little bit. So oddly enough, briefcases sell for much more money in Germany than they sell for anywhere else. USA is third, France is second. The sell-through rating, the sell-through rating of briefcases in the UK is by far the best. eBay.com US is second, and then Germany. Successful listings, eBay.com has the most successful listings, and the buyer country distribution, the most people are buying briefcases in the US, but as we can see here, the UK has pretty strong numbers as well. So I think there could be some good money in briefcases, guys. Next time you're at a garage sale, next time you're at a flea market, Next time, if you want to take a trip out to your local Goodwill store, take a walk around. I think you'll be surprised to see how cheap briefcases are. You can probably pick them up for just a couple bucks a piece. And I think garage sales would be another place to find these. When people are cleaning out their basement, some guy who was a businessman back in the 70s and 80s probably has 3 to 5 briefcases laying around his basement. A lot of people are probably going to sell them at a garage sale for $1 or throw them out. So you can pick these things up really cheaply, and they seem to have some good resale value. And if you actually wanted to start a Shopify store selling briefcases, I could actually see that being a really popular store. Briefcases would be a really cool item, especially vintage briefcases. I think they would really get shared a lot on a site like Instagram, for example. And I think running Instagram ads would be a great way to drive people to your Shopify store. So interesting niche here. I just wanted to share it with you guys. If you have anything to say about this niche, about briefcases, maybe you collect briefcases, whatever, drop a comment in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, please click that subscribe button below. I'm really on a mission to try to hit 100,000 subscribers. I really want to get that silver play button, so help me out, guys. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and we'll talk to you guys on the next one.